Welcome back, everybody. I have like a couple of thousand Dusk Till Dawn foils I've been sleeving for the shop. And I also had some thoughts on the serialized cards and people's reaction to them. So I thought I'd talk to you guys for a few minutes while I sleeve. Hopefully you enjoy it. Before I get started, I want to show you guys, some of you have seen this. I bought these sketches from Federico. They're framed. It's a series of 5 that I bought in Lille. And just a reference, because we'll be talking a little bit about artist sketches in this video. Anyway, let me grab a big chunk of these foils. Here we go. They're all sorted. It's just a matter of sleeving them now. And we'll get into this. So, I believe the serialized cards, the overall reception to them from my perspective, speaking to some collectors privately, etc., has been that they were underwhelmed. It's not necessarily going to affect much, and I'll go through some reasons why, but I'll talk first about what they are. So the serialized cards in Dusk Till Dawn are 20 artist sketches on the back of a cold foil Marvel hero artist proof. So it's cold foil on the front with the purple diamond Marvel icon of chain and prism, and then on the back 1 to 10 for each hero by Livia Prima and Federico Massetti, the artists for those particular heroes. So that's basically what we're talking about here. The pros, I'll start with the obvious one, is how rare these things are. If you speculate that there's maybe 200,000 booster boxes printed for Dusk Till Dawn, then you're looking at something like one of these in every 240,000 packs. So it's a lot more rare than something like the Marvel Emperor or a cold foil Fable, even including the cold foil Hard to Find in WTR Alpha. They're very rare. Each single one is a unique piece of art. They're not a copy. So there are 10 chains and there are 10 prisms. We're talking, what are we, like a week and a bit past launch now? Or maybe less than a week past launch? Less than a week past launch. Either way, there's only been 3 that have been publicly shown. So there's still 7 out there. I'm going to get into this in more detail, but I believe the real value here is going to be in the ART 001. I'll superimpose, I should say, some of these images on the screen so you guys know what I'm talking about, the front of the cards. But basically, the front is something unique we haven't seen before. And I think that's where a lot of the value for these cards are going to come. Let's talk about some negatives or some criticisms I have. And some of these are personal, coming from me as a collector. Some are me as a fan. And it's also based on some feedback, talking to people, seeing who is interested in buying these and what they're pricing them at. But one of the first things that you'll find is the sketch on the back is more or less the same quality type of sketch you would get at any major event one of these artists is at. I'll link back to events as far back as like 2020, 2021 with Livia Prima doing some of these. The cost, including something like buying these pre-sketched on Art House Syndicate, is about 50 to 75 USD. So to value these cards highly, you have to take into account that the product itself, like you could just pay the artist to sketch this on any other card, something similar on any other card, and potentially, if you give the artist more time and money, sketch like a custom prism or chain that the art is subjectively much more detailed or cooler in your perspective. So the option to get this sort of product made and the amount of them that already exist is part of why I think people were underwhelmed when they saw them. Not to say the art's not beautiful or anything, it's just part of why, because this is something that's been readily available for a while. One other thing that LSS haven't specifically come out and said, which you can maybe read between the lines, and I trust them to do the right thing, but they haven't specifically said that the front cold foil Marvel artist proof is limited to 10. And that's part of the issue, I think, or the speculation has caused a lot of collectors not to even make offers on some of these cards, which again I'll detail later. So we don't know for a fact that there's only 10 printed. Now maybe, I haven't actually checked the collector center as of making this video, maybe ART001 says there's only 20. Actually there's probably ART001, ART002. I haven't checked if the chain and prism are different, but either way, for these to hold much value, they're going to need to be guaranteed to be the only 10 to ever exist. Because again, the backs of them are, yes, albeit they are unique, they're not that unique that collectors are going to spend 5 or 6 figures on a card like this, in my opinion. Second, and unfortunately, as much as there's a lot of love for these heroes, both heroes are LL. They're both not in the main format of the game. And Living Legend format has been confirmed to never be... It's not going to be like Worlds format or a calling format. It's very likely to stay as a side event format. So, that being said, Fab in a major way has always carried value, or the high-end cards in Fab have more or less carried value based on their playability. A lot of the spikes in the market have to do with that. There are things that are nostalgic or vintage, inverted commas, that hold value just simply because they're old. But there's still a reason why in Light and Strike, Rainbow Foil, in Alpha is much more expensive than any of the other Majestics. It's not printed less, it's just simply the strongest card with the best art, arguably, that also has a rare version of it. I think that's gonna play into, or will play into, how these get valued and what they get bought for in the end. Is Chain and Prism. Basically, you can't flex with these cards. You can display them, you can sell them, you can frame them, but playing with them on camera as a pro player, as an example, or just as a collector like me who does play at some high-level events, I can't flex with them. The heroes don't exist in the format. I think that's a deterrent to how much they'll get valued at. The other thing is too, there's like a baseline value here where Chain and Prism are basically tokens. They're heroes that you can open pretty much any Monarch box and get copies of, or History Pack 2 for that matter now, just to play the hero. So the cheapest version of Chain or Prism Adult is literally free at major events, or something well under 50 cents in any currency. And I saw someone compare how rare these hero cards are, these hero sketch cards are, compared to like a Hard to Find or Cold Foil. But Hard to Find or Cold Foil, the floor to buy a heart, any heart, is much higher than a token. It is a fable, and that also plays into it. This is... the Prism sketch cards are basically a Cold Foil Marvel artist proof that's based on a token, not based on a fable, which I believe, again, in Fab will always demand a premium if it's based on a bigger card, inverted commas, or a more rare card to pull. I already sort of touched on this before, but artists' sketches like these are super readily available. There's easily hundreds, if not thousands of them already out in the wild. Many people that meet Livia want to get Prism, and so they, ask for a custom sketch, and she does it. Obviously, not all of them have a number next to them saying 1 out of 10. Maybe not, some of them are not as detailed, or maybe the art itself has never been done any similarly. I can do some research and find them, but I'll post a couple of photos of what I do find. All I'm saying is these are not, the art on the back is not as unique as it is to, it's as unique as any sketch these artists have done, if that makes sense. And again, that becomes very subjective as to which art is better. You might not think that the Prism sketch is better than the one you already have on a much cheaper artist print. So I don't know how deep collectors will reach into their wallets for something that many people have similar versions of the art I'm talking about, not the front face of these cards. Lastly, both these artists are quite active. They're quite popular for Flesh and Blood. And I do see at any event you go to, there's usually a lineup, and again, it just reinforces the point. There's plenty of these kind of sketches in the wild. My thoughts to summarize, I'm not trying to be like negative on these. I'm trying to say why I think people are maybe underwhelmed. I think the value will mostly consist of how rare the front faces of these cards are, more than just the back. Potentially the 1 of 10 or the 10 of 10 on the back will demand a premium, but we haven't even found those yet as far as I know. But I think having a completely unique front face will demand a premium. And again, if that ever gets reinforced by LSS on the Collector Center or publicly that there's only 10 of these made, you know, there's no spare ones, none of them were handed out to the artists, like the artist didn't get 15 and were asked to return 10 of them, that kind of thing. As long as that happens, I'll give you an example. In Worlds, the Dorinthia artist was there, and he had cold foil Dorinthias with the actual cold foil hero promos, and he was selling them for 30 US, and he just didn't know at the time that these were selling for, like, I don't know, $1,000 at the time, definitely over $500 US at the time. So he just didn't know because LSS sent him a box of them, obviously to sign at events, and then I'm sure COVID, etc., meant he didn't attend events, and by the time he did attend Worlds, was the first event he'd attended, I believe, and he had these old promos that he had no idea were worth so much money. He had young Rainbow Foil Dory as well going for 30 US, just as an example. So if any of these was sent to the artists as spares, it dilutes the price. Also, we don't know if they'll repeat this. So if every supplemental set or every set moving forward, they decide to add some serialized cards or just these cool artist-proof Marvel cards, even if it's different heroes, I think we'll dilute it too. It seems like something specific for the 10th set, but in reality, it's possible that you see this type of thing again. And I'm not saying LSS needs to guarantee we don't or anything. They do whatever they want. I just think it affects the value long term. So just to give you a bit of a story before I go, I actually need to head out in a minute. But there is one of these, the chain 3 out of 10 is actually from New Zealand, I believe, a small town in New Zealand. The guy contacted me to sell it. He didn't ask for $50,000. I want to be clear. He just didn't know what to value it and said that he saw the Prism was posted at $50,000, but he knew that wasn't realistic and wanted an idea of a realistic valuation. I, in turn, made a personal offer, but I also, as I do if you guys have dealt with me in the past with high-end stuff, I also shopped around a dozen high-end buyers, including people you would know like Saint Hung, Spencer from Magnolia Gaming, Hemel, like a bunch of people that I know if they really wanted the card can probably afford it, to ask what they would pay. The biggest offer, and I want to tell you who it was, it actually wasn't any of the people I named anyway. The highest offer was 5,000 US, 8,000 New Zealand dollars roughly. The offer wasn't accepted, it's just the highest offer that came. But the surprising thing for you guys to understand why I'm saying the reaction to these cards has been underwhelming is most people, so out of the 12, I think only 4 even gave me a number. Everyone else just passed on it. And didn't necessarily pass because they're not interested, they passed because they have no idea how to value it. And they see it as not an instant collectible the way like Marvel Emperor was an instant collectible because it was the double-faced cold foil. Same as the Heroes in History Pack 1, European language, black border, they all immediately became collectible because it was the coolest looking version of those particular heroes that you could buy. So again, only 4 out of 12 people even made an offer. My personal valuation was 2,000 to 3,000 US. That's what I was ballpark willing to pay based on some images and what I thought it would grade at. Also, I think I would pay more for a Prism than a Chain. Just I believe that hero is always going to have premium. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Just rambling. I don't have like, I'm not trying to make a statement here. I'm just spitballing some info you guys might not be aware of. I do want to make a public offer before I go, and I hope you've been enjoying this monotonous me sleeving foils. This is how we treat all the foils in the shop. You can see they're not curled at all, and the way we keep them not curled is we pretty much sleeve them immediately after sorting them before we store them, and yeah, this is what you get with our shop. Public offer is this. I've already offered this to the person in New Zealand because they're obviously semi-local to me, and they're more than likely going to have to export that card or ship it overseas when it sells because the market is much bigger outside of New Zealand. I'm willing to auction one of these off for no fee, use my channel, the shop, and more than likely do a Facebook auction on like the high-end collectible page that Saint is whichever page Saint Hung is an admin of, I might just run an auction. But I'm only willing to do that for one of these cards. So whoever has a serialized sketch card that is willing to auction it, I'm more than happy to help with some publicity and run the auction and whatever. But the rules will be no reserve, and that's it. Like just no reserve. I don't want to put like a high reserve. I just want to start it at $0 and let the market decide what they're worth, which would be a cool exercise for everyone if anyone wants to do it. And because I'm not taking a fee, the buyer will just pay the seller, but I'll have the card in my possession and I'll ship it. That way that everyone's safe and etc. It'll also help whatever seller to vet buyers because I usually will know, and if I don't know them, I will know of the buyer. There's not that many big wallets in Fab, although that is definitely changing, is growing. I don't know everyone, but again, I can at least vet. And if we can't vet, I can make sure it's done with buyer protection, etc., even through the shop, like a credit card provider. Anyway, I'll do my best to help move one, and obviously everyone gets a public data point. But I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think these were underwhelming, overwhelming? What do you think the cards will be valued at? One thing I'll say in closing too is one thing that does annoy me, hasn't happened, but it does annoy me about the collectible world is a lot of valuations people throw around is like, my friend said I shouldn't sell this for less than X. It happened to me with the gold foil silver palms. People literally going around going, well, these are 20,000. I'm like, why on earth is a silver palms 20,000? Like, well, because there's less of them than there are gold tunics, so it's got to be at least worth as much as a gold tunic. And again, if you dig through, it's usually a friend told them that, which in other words is not a buyer telling them that. They're just like spitballing a valuation. Keep in mind, your card's only worth what someone will pay for it. I know it's been repeated a million times, but the only value these cards have will depend on what a buyer will pay. And that's what I'm curious to find out. I personally, like I said, I would buy them for 2,000 to 3,000 US. There's people paying more than that, so don't sell them to me. Sell them to. I can definitely put you in touch with someone willing to pay the 5,000 US. But I would also love to run a public auction and let the market decide. We did this for a harder findal when everyone was very, very bearish on the market, and that heart went for way over what the market at the time, primarily Louis from Kitchen Table, was saying that hearts are worth. We sold a 9.5 heart for 21,000 US. It was something like that, where at the time people were saying they're only worth 10 to 15. So I'd love to do that with the serialized. Also, I'd love to be proven wrong and that they are worth $20,000, $30,000. That'd be great to see. But again, comment below. Please like and subscribe. We are clearly stocking the shop with foils soon, so if you want any common or rare foils, you know where to find them. Have a good day.